Have you had a cholecystectomy? Have you had the gallbladder taken out? Folks, there's a product that Dr. Ann Louise Gittleman is going to talk about in the opening of the show today called Bile Builder. I think all of you need to look into this, take it to your doctor and say, you know, is this something I should be studying a little bit better? I believe it is. Then Nurse Jenny Herbachik is going to be talking about human papillomavirus, medical errors. I'm going to do a little segment on the many errors that occur in medicine. Be careful out there. And finally, Dr. V. You haven't met her, we Skyped her. She did a program with us on breast cancer. 7 things to watch out for. All that and more on today's Know the Cause. My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. She was responsible, Dr. Ann Louise Gittleman, many, many years ago, for confirming my work. You know, 40-some years ago, I said, let's stay away from grains. Crazy, said every dietitian in America. Well, Dr. Ann Louise Gittleman had written in the Townsend Letter, a scientific newsletter back then, that, you know, for various and sundry reasons, we need to stay away from grains. So she and I became buddies a long time ago. She now has product lines, and the reason I wanted her on was to discuss every few weeks, you're going to see Dr. Ann Louise Gittleman discuss various products. We're going to start with something called Bile Builder. First of all, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Oh, I love seeing you and James. I see you driving across country, you know. Great to see you. Tell us a little about Bile Builder. I know what bile is, but tell the audience where it's made, why we need to build it.
So bile is very important because it is a digestive fluid that's made in the liver. And it's very important for digesting fats, number one, and it's a detox mechanism for heavy metals as well as hormones and other kinds of waste. So you need quality bile that's decongested and free-flowing. If you don't have a gallbladder, you need Bile Builder. If you have sluggish metabolism, you need Bile Builder. If you're a woman that can't lose weight because you're fat, overweight, and 40, you need Bile Builder.
Okay, and the reports, the testimonials are just amazing.
The testimonials are incredible. What I never realized is that a lot of symptoms of heartburn can actually be resulting from not enough bile or too much bile at the wrong time. So that's number one. It's also a lubricating element for those of us that can't go to the bathroom and are forever constipated. That Bile Builder does more than any kind of fiber ever will.
Who is the stereotypical buyer? Men, women? I mean, do you see in your orders who
Women over 40.
Okay.
Women that are 40 and fatigued and frazzled. And a lot of it is because we've been told that the gallbladder is a throwaway organ. It's not a throwaway organ. So if you can save your gallbladder, you'll be able to time the digestion of fat with the right kind of bile, which is the fat digesting enzyme. That's really what's so important. And if you do not have free-flowing bile, then you're constantly dripping the bile throughout the system without the timing that's necessary. So you're not digesting your essential fatty acids. You're deficient in some of the vitamins A, D, E, and K. And a lot of people are finding they're very fatigued. This is important for bloating, for burping, for GERD, and for that kind of bitter taste that people get in their mouths. And if you're waking up at gallbladder time, which is between 11 and 1, then you know you need something like Bile Builder to help your system.
Because you've talked for years about probiotics, you know, helping with the GERD and so forth. Well, here is something else. Tell me, millions and millions of Americans have had cholecystectomies, right, where they take the gallbladder out, and they're on various medications. Would something like this be able to assist if they've had that?
It'd be very helpful if you don't have a gallbladder, and if you do have a gallbladder but are still getting that burping sensation and if fatty foods make you feel uncomfortable, if you're hiccuping a great deal. All those kinds of digestive ills are very important for this. And of course, if you're not going to the bathroom the way that you should.
There's the product. Oh, 20% off. Good. Bile Builder is a wonderful, wonderful
for your
product.
special viewers.
That's, boy, I have special viewers. Teach me a little bit. You've written a book called Before the Change. How is that going? What's this, your 85th book or something? I mean, you must write full time.
Not quite, but almost.
I always see you, on some of these big ABC shows and so forth, talking to the host there. You've written a lot of books.
Yeah.
You continue to educate. This book, I think, is so important. Before the Change. Tell us a little bit about that book.
It's for women that are going through any kind of menopausal change, whether it's premenopausal, postmenopausal, or perimenopausal. And it's a book where I actually identify BioBuilder in that particular book, because that's important for women that have excess hormones that need to excrete them out of the system. And with Bio, when it becomes congested, they can't excrete those extra estrogens. Okay. So it's a very important product. Love your liver, and that's what BioBuilder does, Doug Kaufman.
How can they get a copy of The Change, the book?
Before the Change?
Before the Change.
They can go to Amazon. You can go to Amazon and order Before the Change. You can go to my website, AnnLouise.com, or UniKeyHealth.com, where you can get that wonderful product. Yeah, the wonderful product, folks, is BioBuilder, as you've heard. This is essential for so many people. Ox bile, an ingredient in it, but so many other things like taurine, so many other important ingredients in it. And beetroot, which thins the bile. And it all works synergistically. I can't find products like that on the market. Ann Louise Gittleman, Unikey Health, UNIKEY Health.com, or 888-800-888-4353. Thank you, Dr. Gittleman. My pleasure, Doug Kaufman. Okay, Nurse Jenny Herbacik now talks about human papillomavirus. What is that? You're going to learn. And then the number one cause of death in America is what? Heart disease, then cancer. What's number three? Wait till you see this.
Hi, I'm Jenny Herbacik, here with the Cancer Connection. Human papillomavirus, or HPV, is the most common sexually transmitted infection in the United States. It's so common that the Centers for Disease Control say that most sexually active men and women will get at least one type of HPV at some point in their lives. Most OBGYNs will perform an HPV and a Pap test at the same time. 90% of the time, the lesions caused by this virus will disappear on their own, and aggressive treatment can actually lead to cervical incompetence and miscarriages down the road. Cervical cancers, like most prostate cancers, are very slow growing. Most cervical cancer deaths occur in older women who have had chronic, undiagnosed, untreated HPV infections for many years. So get tested perhaps every 5 years, because if you do have an infection, it's easily treated. For Know the Cause, I'm Jenny Herbacik.
I prepared for this next segment, which is 4 minutes long. It talks about medical errors. It's not about fungus, although I think the reason many people, if not most, are in the hospital is a fungal infection that doctors aren't aware of, okay? But it reminded me of two things in my medical training, right? We used to have to run on the beach in San Diego at Camp Pendleton. And I mean run. Those Marines would get us up early. I was a Navy corpsman, but had to train with Marines. And when you ran, you had to say, stop the bleeding, start the breathing. Stop the bleeding, start the breathing. Stop the bleeding, start. Because if you had a guy that was kind of blown apart in Vietnam, there's no sense in getting him breathing again if he's bleeding out. So stop the bleeding. If you have to use a belt or anything, stop the bleeding, then start the breathing. The other thing was the care that we exercised in giving drugs to patients in the hospital. I mean, we didn't sleep nights before. And it's a big deal, folks. I respect nurses who have to dispense these drugs that doctors scribble down on a piece of paper. Mistakes happen. As a matter of fact, the number one cause of death in America, number one and number two keep vacillating a little bit. Currently, it's heart disease, and then cancer's right here. But a few years ago, it was cancer up here. And, it seems to be no big deal to anyone except to me, who believes I can prevent heart disease and cancer, right? So, number three cause of death, well, let me take it from the horse's mouth here. Johns Hopkins University researchers estimate that medical error is now the number three leading cause of death, right? This was in the Washington Post a short time ago. Number three leading cause of death is medical error. Any of you nurses out there or technicians, medical entrepreneurs, I have a brilliant idea because we're going through this with a loved one in the hospital right now. The errors are amazing, are staggering. If I was a nurse, I'd start a company called Hospital Consultants, Inc., right? HCI. And these hospital consultants would be there, would place a nurse there, 3 shifts, right? 24 hours in a day, 8-hour shifts. And they would just kindly ask when the nurses bring the medications in to give them shots, to give them, that they could make sure it's the right stuff. When hundreds of thousands of people a year die to medical errors, why doesn't a business start? Would the nurses in the hospital be upset with that? The patients would love it. I mean, I can see your insurance paying for care like that. Mistakes are happening. Why hasn't anyone, I'm an entrepreneur, why hasn't anyone come up with this idea, right? We have people that take care of older people in their home. Why not in a hospital so we can become older people instead of us dying to a medical error in a hospital? I thought that was interesting because of this. NORC at the University of Chicago just published this. A new survey finds 21% of Americans reported personal experience with medical errors, and you know that it's 21% reported it, so it's probably 91% that didn't report it. And then look at this. More than 80% believe that patient safety in a hospital is a responsibility of healthcare providers. We don't get it. We have passed the buck. We have no idea that it's our responsibility. I would be a nutcase in a hospital. There's no needle that would go in my body. There's nothing that would go in my IV or my respirator without me saying, excuse me, can I have a quick look at that? And I'd be on my little computer. Okay, let's see. And when did the doctor order it? How much? 2 cc's? Man, this is 4 cc's. You're giving me twice as much. Come on, you guys, get a handle on this. Hospital Consultants, Inc. Anyone out there sharp enough to pull this one off? I think it's a great idea. Call me. I'll talk to you about the whole idea. God bless you, folks. I'll be right back with more.
Let's talk about the health benefits of seeds. They are the tiniest little superfoods. They may be small, but they are mighty, y'all. They are packed with nutritional benefits, and many of them are little powerhouse superfoods. Certain seeds are loaded with protein, fiber, healthy fats, antioxidants, and vitamins. Chia seeds, for example, lead the pack in almost every category. Now get this. Did you know that chia seeds have more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk, more antioxidants than blueberries, more vitamin C than oranges, more omega-3s than salmon, and more protein than kidney beans? Talk about a superfood. Chia, my friends. And then sesame, sunflower, and poppy seeds are all high in protein and healthy fats. Flax seeds are one of the world's greatest sources of dietary fiber, and when consumed regularly can lead to a healthy and clean bowel and gut. Flax seeds are rich in fatty acids, which are a powerful anti-inflammatory that have been shown to block tumor growth in animals and may reduce the risk of cancer in humans. The hemp seed is another incredible seed that is on the rise. It has a high protein percentage of the simple proteins that boost immunity and fend off toxins. Hemp seeds contain all 20 amino acids, including the 9 essential amino acids that our bodies can't produce on their own. When you consume seeds in salads, smoothies, guiltless superfoods, or any other way, you are truly planting seeds of good health, life, and longevity.
Friends, joining me right now is a doctor I met at the TTAC, the Truth About Cancer Symposium in Orlando, Florida. What a rush. What a 3-day Zoom by. Dr. Veronique Desaulniers. We're going to affectionately call her what everybody did at the symposium, and that's Dr. V. Dr. V, thank you so much for joining us. You know, you and I stood next to each other with that massive audience out there clapping as they gave us all these awards. One of the reasons I loved you and your presentation and wanted to put you on TV was your story, number one. First, explain, you're a chiropractor, but you're a bioenergetic chiropractor. What's the difference in traditional and bioenergetic chiropractic?
Well, traditional chiropractors are more concerned about relieving structural and physical pain, and that's a great thing. However, I took it a step further and I started working with the bioenergy aspect of the body with homeopathy, naturopathy, bioenergetic testing that reads the acupuncture points on the hands and the feet so we know exactly which organ systems are out of balance. We use lasers, percussors, color therapy, all kinds of things to affect the energy of the body as well.
I can just imagine when you graduated from chiropractic school, it was one thing, right? Follow the rules, go by the guidelines. Was it your own illness that altered all of that? Or were you already thinking, listening to these patients, thinking in advance, oh boy, the standard subluxation fixes are going to change a little? I loved what you had to say on that podium. I mean, the things you talked about, I'm sitting in the back saying, you got to be kidding me. Here is a doctor of chiropractic, which I respect because they're educated in nutrition, that is blowing me away with some of the therapies she's now intertwining into her practice. Was it before breast cancer or after?
It was actually. My father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 1983, so I was in practice for about 3 years. And traditional medicine basically sent him home and gave him no hope, and basically gave him 6 weeks to live. And during that time period, I just felt in my gut that there was something that could have been done. But 1983, no internet back then, so I went to the library, started doing research, talked to a few cancer clinics, which were few and far between back then. I realized that there was something that could have been done for my father. So I took that fire in my soul and brought that to my practice and started incorporating all these things that I had learned. And I was seeing amazing changes in my patients.
Give the viewers right now a thumbnail sketch of your own fight with this disease. When, where, how, why, et cetera, and what have you learned?
Big why. That was a very big question. How could somebody like me develop breast cancer? Because I thought I was doing everything right. But I realized that I was missing pieces of the puzzle. And so for me, it was a thyroid issue, low iodine. I was sensitive to electropollution. I had a cavitation, which is an infection in the bone, which I knew nothing about. And then there was a big piece of the emotional aspect. And so diving down that rabbit hole, did a lot of research, and I created a system because I was frustrated and confused and overwhelmed, and I'd been in practice for 25 years. So how much more so would the average person who's just trying to figure this out be confused? So that's why I created the 7 Essential System. It's a simple step-by-step guide that walks you through the process of a healing journey.
Okay, now, Dr. V, do you have that 7 memorized? I know you've written about it and published about it, but if I call you to the carpet right now, can you say, oh, sure, Doug, number 1 was? Can you give us the thumbnail of those?
Of course.
Okay, let's go through those. Go ahead.
Okay, so number 1 is let food be your medicine. Number 2 is to reduce your toxic exposure. Number 3 is to balance your energy, which includes balancing your hormones, your sleep, your activity. Number 4 has to do with healing your emotional wounds. Number 5 is biological dentistry. 6 is repairing your body with therapeutic plants and herbs. And 7 is keeping a pulse on your health with very early detection and sensitive tools that will show if there's still cancer or if your cancer is developing at a very, very early stage.
In the final 40 seconds here, you've been very outspoken online and elsewhere about mold and certain diseases. Do you feel that mold, mildew, fungal mycotoxins played a role in your disease?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a serious connection between mold toxicity, mycotoxicosis, and how it suppresses the immune system and how it can certainly cause the impetus of cancer cells to develop. So for me and where I was living at the time, yes, South Georgia, lots of humidity and lots of mold.
Bingo. Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it, and you have given a lot of people a seed to plant. I appreciate you, Dr. V. Thank you.
Thank you.
For today's Facebook segment, Shiri asks, where do we go for parasite and fungal infection? I think she means for fungus and parasite infection treatment. But here's what I would do, Shiri. Understand, the year was 1972. What were you doing in 1972? I got back from Vietnam in 71, went to work for an allergist out in LA, a wonderful, wonderful man by the name of Howard Gottschalk, right there in Westchester near the airport. I worked for him for quite a few years. And then I took up a part-time job with Dr. Everett Hughes at USC Medical School. Dr. Hughes wanted to use the allergy work that we were doing, food allergy work, in his clinic at USC. So I went up there and met Dr. Hughes. And while I was there, I was suffering. I came home with miserable symptoms, but I came home at 21 years old. What do 21-year-old guys have the authority to do now? Walk into a liquor store, at that time lay 95 cents down, and get a six-pack of beer. And so my roommates and I all did that. So I was feeding that yeast problem inadvertently. And so one day, Dr. Hughes said to me, you know, you got a whole library. The Google searches, what was Google? You know, what was Yahoo? Yahoo was a root beer or something back then. And so I got a library card at USC and I went down there and I began studying. And as luck would have it, here's what I felt like. I felt like in Vietnam a worm got on board, parasitized me, and was dictating my brain, my behavior, my pain. I was bleeding at the folds of my skin, etc. I just felt like a parasite had gotten on board. So I got this old medical textbook from the 50s. I opened it up as larger than normal. I opened it up after hours and I began to look at parasites. Maybe Kaufman has a worm. You know, I don't think it's rare today. As a matter of fact, Greg Emerson, Dr. Emerson, says a lot of us have parasitic infections. Here's what most doctors don't know. One of the chapters in that book, an early chapter, thank God, because it helped me get better, was called fungi and their abilities to parasitize man. Fungus. So here's all I knew about fungus. The monsoon weather in Vietnam, some of you have been there, it poured. And we slept in a little canopy, a tent. Two guys would lean on each other and put a little tent over your head that would keep some of the rain out, and that's the way you slept. And you'd wake up in the morning and you'd be soaking wet. And it's not like we could go to the drawers and pull out a new pair of pants or underwear or socks. They just didn't exist. You got through the day. You don't take shoes off because you're so scared you're going to hit a tripwire and hit a toe popper or something and it's really going to tear your foot off. So you left your shoes on. Here's what I knew about fungus. When I got back from Vietnam, my feet were covered with it. My back had some fungus on it. This was ugly, but I didn't know it was a fungus on both arms. When did we take a shower? We'd go months without a shower. I would try and brush a couple times a week from our canteens, but we didn't know hygiene at all over there. So we colonized fungus very readily. The reason I bring this to your attention, Shiri, is for this reason. Many of us, when we think parasites, we think flukes, we think tapeworms, we think big, long things. We've heard stories of people going to the bathroom and there's a shell of a big worm that they passed. And I'm sure that really happens. A lot of us may have parasite infections. There's things like black walnut. There are supplements that you can get in a health food store. There's products called ParaCleanse that just cleanse parasites out of your body. And then there are other products, and sometimes they're one and the same, like black walnut. It'll kill fungus and it'll kill worms. There are other products that just kind of more deal with fungus. If I can get this home, Shiri, it would help me and help a lot of you. Yeah, I think a lot of us are running around with parasites. A parasite lives off us, and it can get along well, and we can get along with it in there. That's called a symbiotic relationship. So a worm likes 98.6 degrees. Fungus thrives in heat, and it's 70 in this studio, but it's 30 degrees warmer inside my body. As long as we feed these parasites, as long as we feed the fungus, they're happy as can be. You can see them sitting back there, you know, having a drink, enjoying it. It's when you start killing them that you feel miserable. Take home message, Shiri, you can go to a doctor and he can give you a couple of little pills that tend to wipe out parasites. Do they also wipe out fungus? It takes a long time to get rid of a localized or a systemic fungal infection. Be prudent. Often they need to be starved. Often they need pills that will get rid of them, and it's a long process. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that helps you. It's really an interesting product, BioBuilder. Thank you, Dr. Ann Louise Gittleman, for coming in and continuing our education. We've asked her if she'll come in every month or so and kind of update us on some of the products that Unikey, her company, makes. This one, I think, is going to be real important for many of you. Also, what did you think about the segment on the third leading cause of death in America? I remember in the American Heart and American Cancer, oh yeah, we're number one. Oh yeah, we're number one. We're number one. We're number one. Number three is just sat there, right? Be careful about running from doctor to doctor to doctor. We need doctors sometimes, folks, but don't be overzealous about running from doctor to doctor because mistakes can happen. For good people, mistakes happen. Thank you, Dr. V, for that feedback on breast cancer. I mean, that's valuable, valuable information. And finally, thank you, Nurse Jenny, as always, for being here and continuing our education. God bless you, folks. I'll see you again next time.